In the first scene, we meet two guys named Leland Jones and William Billy Orser. They leave their room in a quiet, rural motel in the USA Midwest. One says he's checking out. These two don't seem like the usual travel buddies. Leland is older, over 50, while Orser is much younger, in his 20s. When Leland finally leaves the motel office, Orser wonders what took him so long. Leland explains he had a problem with the maid, but it's all sorted now. Leland's thirsty and asks for a drink, but there's nothing in the jug. He tells Orser to get some water from the motel office's cooler. Orser goes in, and there's a bloody handprint on the counter. The motel clerk is sitting in a chair, dead, slumped backward. The housekeeper is on the floor in a pool of blood. As Orser fills the jug, a frightened young girl opens the door to the manager's residence, trembling with fear. Orser quiets her down, but then calmly shoots her. In the next scene, we meet Tom Stahl, who owns a small-town diner. He's married to Edie, a lawyer, and they have two kids, Jack, who's 16, and Sarah, who's 10. Tom and Edie are deeply in love and really care about their children. Everyone in the diner knows each other and uses first names. It looks like your typical small-town America. Jack plays baseball at his high school and makes a great catch, ending the game and getting a bully named Bobby Singer out. In the locker room, Bobby tries to push Jack into a fight, but Jack uses humor to talk his way out of the situation. Later in the evening, Bobby and his buddy are cruising around, clearly not having much to do and hoping to find some excitement. They come across Jack and his girlfriend, Judy Danvers, who are seated on a street corner, casually enjoying a joint. Bobby and his friend decide to tease them, but they come close to crashing into a pickup truck. Bobby boldly raises his middle finger at the people in the truck, but he rapidly changes his mind when he observes the stern expressions on their faces. Leland and Orser fix a piercing gaze on the two high school students, conveying the message, "You're on the verge of a significant blunder." Orser complains, saying he's had enough of these small and boring towns and the folks living in them. Leland and Orser come into Tom Stahl's diner when it's about to close. Leland asks politely for coffee and pie, but Tom informs them that they're closing. However, Leland firmly insists on having coffee. Tom, who is usually very tactful, agrees to serve them. He instructs the waitress, Charlotte, to leave work. As she's leaving, Orser grabs her, pushes her into a chair, and touches her chest. He tells her to stay still. Tom thinks they might be trying to steal something from him. He offers them all the cash from the cash register. Leland then takes out his gun and claims the money is rightfully his. He orders Orser to harm Charlotte to prove they're serious. While Leland is momentarily distracted, Orser attacks the waitress. Tom reacts swiftly, smashing a hot coffee pot onto Leland's face, sending him to the floor and causing the gun to slip from his hand. Tom quickly vaults over the counter and snatches Leland's weapon. Orser fires his gun at Tom but misses. Tom returns fire, hitting Orser 3 times in the chest, and Orser comically crashes through the door's window. Leland, on the other hand, makes a dramatic comeback by crawling back and stabbing Tom in the foot. Not to be outdone, Tom shoots Leland square in the head, and Leland's villainous role in this comedy comes to a sudden and hilarious end. The local media can't resist making a comedic twist to Tom's story, painting him as a reluctant hero. When they ask for an interview, he comically declines and decides to play the mystery card by heading to the hospital instead. His hero with a limp tail lands on the front page of the newspaper and becomes the talk of the town. Just a day or two later, Tom is back at his cafe, hobbling around, when 3 strangely overdressed gentlemen stroll in. These out-of-towners take a seat at the counter, and their leader, with the dark sunglasses and sharp suit, hilariously insists on a cup of coffee. He repeatedly calls Tom Joey, much to Tom's comic confusion. Tom denies any Philly connections, but the man remains convinced Tom's from the city of brotherly love. Tom's wife, Edie, is having none of their nonsense. She demands they order something or hit the road. The boss of the trio decides to play it funny by handing Tom a crisp $100 bill and quipping, "Now we're paying customers." When Edie humorously threatens to dial the cops, the men beat a hasty retreat. As they drive along a country road, they get pulled over by Sheriff Sam Carney. With his tough guy demeanor, Sheriff Carney tries to intimidate them, but these comedic mob figures, especially the leader, don't flinch. They respond with amusing lines like, "We're just tourists and keep up the good work, officer." Their cheeky behavior leaves the sheriff shaking his head. Later that day, Sheriff Sam pays a visit to Tom and Edie to discuss the amusing incident. He warns them about these 3 wisecracking mobsters who seem to be from the East Coast. He even tried to dig up dirt on a certain Joey Cusack, the name they kept calling Tom, but it led to a humorous dead end. He did find a Richard Richie Cusack in Philly, though, who happens to be the head of an Irish-American crime family. The 3 jesters are somehow connected to him. A few days later, after Tom spots their car heading towards his house, he hobbles back home, wheezing and panting like a cartoon character. He rushes inside and comically grabs his shotgun, only to discover that there's no Grand Showdown waiting for it. It's just another comical twist in this unpredictable comedy. A day later, EDA is having a typical shopping day at the local mall when her daughter decides to stage a spontaneous escape act. In her pursuit of the little escape artist, Edie hilariously stumbles upon Carl Fogarty, the ringmaster of this comedic chaos. Fogarty, in his usual casual tone, starts chatting with Edie, dropping bombshells left and right, like suggesting her hubby isn't who he claims to be. Edie, in all her comical glory, defends Tom with vigor, but Fogarty simply proposes a little friendly chat between her and Tom about a certain Richie Cusack. According to Fogarty, Richie is Tom's long-lost brother, and he hints that Tom has a unique skill set, being exceptionally good at, well, let's say, dealing with people. Now, on the same action-packed day, Tom's son, Jack, finds himself in another showdown with the relentless Bobby. Unable to walk away from the taunts, Jack decides it's time for a knockout comedy performance. He comically beats Bobby and his sidekick to a pulp, landing Bobby in the hospital. This incident hilariously reveals that both Tom and Jack have a knack for causing some serious mayhem when they've had enough. After Jack's triumphant return home, he and Tom have a side-splitting argument about the recent happenings. Jack, in his teenage wisdom, decides to make a wisecrack about Tom's encounter with the two hitmen. Tom responds with a slapstick slap, and Jack bolts out of the house like he's in a comedy show. A little later, Tom spots Fogarty's ride pulling up to his place. The comedic trio of visitors insists that Tom should set down his shotgun and join them for a ride. Tom, with his quick wit, suggests it might be in their best interest to hit the road instead. But one of the men humorously points a gun at Tom's head, and things take a hilarious turn. Edie, watching the comedy unfold from the second-story window, witnesses Tom's slapstick showdown. Tom grabs one of the men's arms, transforms it into a comedic pretzel, repeatedly treats the man's nose like an elevator button, and delivers a two-round punchline to the other guy's chest. Fogarty decides to add to the comedic mix by shooting Tom in the shoulder, making him drop his pistol like it's a hot potato. Fogarty, standing menacingly over the injured Tom, can't contain his frustration. He asks Tom if he has any parting words before the final act. Tom, with a stern look, fires back with a memorable line, "You know, I really should have dealt with you back in Philly." Just as Fogarty is about to deliver his next line, Jack, the quiet comedic genius, steals the show. He snatches Tom's shotgun like a prop and delivers the punchline of the night. Fogarty's exit, stage left. Tom, shooting a look at his son that says, "We could have headlined in a different city," takes the shotgun back from Jack. But then, in a heartwarming twist, Tom transforms the scene into a touching family moment. He surprises Jack with a hug, thanking him for the killer punchline and helping him wipe away those tears that just won't stop. Later that evening, Edie storms into Tom's hospital room, launching into an emotional monologue, pleading with him to reveal the truth. She insists she witnessed him take on Fogarty's henchman with his bare hands, like a pro wrestler in a championship match. Tom finally decides it's time to spill the beans and admits he used to be a teenage mob hitman named Joey Cusack. But he's quick to clarify that he retired from that gig a while ago, especially after his run-in with Fogarty, who, as it turns out, is a made man, untouchable by any crime family. Tom confesses he used to do the whole hitman thing for kicks and cash. Edie, in a surprising twist, goes from shock to playing defense attorney in this courtroom comedy. When Sam shows up the next day with a barrage of questions about Fogarty, these mob figures are like those elusive stand-up comedians, incredibly secretive. Insists they wouldn't have ventured to the sticks unless they were absolutely certain they had the right headliner. Tom's on the verge of spilling the whole story, but Edie, with an unexpected plot twist, jumps in to save the day. Sam reluctantly takes a bow and exits, leaving them with a parting gesture that says, "You folks are either spinning yarns or holding some deep secrets." As Sam exits stage right, Edie whirls around to deliver the grand finale of their comedy act, a slapstick slap across Tom's face, followed by a dramatic reveal of his name, Joey. Tom, in a sudden burst of enthusiasm, playfully shoves her onto the staircase, and they embark on a surprisingly energetic physical showdown. This whirlwind of action is a far cry from their earlier playful and romantic escapades. Later that night in bed, Tom receives an unexpected call from Richie himself, who decides to employ veiled threats, saying, "Are you considering a visit, or shall I arrange an impromptu gathering at your abode?" Tom, never one to dodge a challenge, embarks on an all-day road trip to Philadelphia, meeting a rather rugged driver at a shabby bar. This driver, a keen enthusiast of ride-sharing, chauffeurs Tom to a lavish mansion, where he reunites with his sharply dressed, self-confident younger sibling. After some conversation about Tom's newfound suburban lifestyle, Richie delves into the enthralling particulars of the significant turmoil and loss of reputation that Joey's actions caused in the world of organized crime before his enigmatic disappearance. Tom, having distanced himself from the mob life like a dieter avoiding pastries, implores Richie, reveal the secret formula to mend this predicament. With the composed demeanor of a bartender explaining the day's specials, Richie proposes, "Well, Joey, you could always meet an unfortunate end," and politely diverts his attention elsewhere, feigning ignorance as the driver initiates an unorthodox competition in necktying with Tom. However, to everyone's astonishment, Joey has some surprises up his sleeve and manages to gain the upper hand. He gracefully dismounts from Richie's desk, engaging in a deadly hand-to-hand combat with the driver and a couple of henchmen, leaving them utterly breathless. Richie, unwilling to be excluded from the action, takes a shot at Joey but fails miserably. Joey, ostensibly attempting to flee, lures Richie outside with a firearm in hand. Unbeknownst to Richie, Joey has the entire house secured and promptly locks Richie out. Richie clumsily searches for his keys, convinced that he can outwit Joey. Yet Joey maintains the upper hand, or should we say upper head. He swings the door open, and Richie's life story concludes with a dramatic exit. Tom, exhausted from his unforeseen escapade, returns home to find his family in the midst of a dinner. Appearing as if he just ran a marathon through a labyrinth, he collapses into a chair at the table. His daughter Sarah, always the gracious hostess, sets a place for him. Meanwhile, Edie bows her head, possibly praying that the dinner conversation doesn't veer into mob-related topics. On the other hand, Jack remains silent. Finally, Edie, with tearful cheeks, locks eyes with Tom, who responds with a facial expression that conveys, "We've been through quite the ordeal, haven't we?" Thank you for watching, and please subscribe Mango Recap for more video like this and help the channel grow.